Solve for x squared minus 5x plus 4. Let's have you pause the video, give this question a shot, and then when you're ready, we'll go over how to do it. So this is what we call a quadratic equation. A quadratic equation is going to look like this. It's going to be a times x squared plus bx plus c. Now in this equation right here, we would see that we've got this minus 5x is our b term, and we have to consider the minus sign. Our a term is just 1 because it says x squared. And we don't write the 1 out in front of it, but you can just imagine that this is 1 times x squared. So our a is going to be 1. And our c term is going to be 4. Now you could solve this in another way using the solution of the quadratic equation formula, but I'm going to show you how to do it by factoring. And when I teach factoring, I like to draw first like a little x like this. And at the top, I write a times c, and at the bottom, I write b. Okay, so let me show you what this would look like. So over here, let me redraw my x. Now, I want to look at my a term, which is 1, my c term, which is 4, and I'm going to multiply them together. So 1 times 4 is just 4, and I'm going to put that up here. All right, and my b term is just a minus 5. All right, and we have to take that minus sign into consideration. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to list numbers that will multiply together to give me 4, but here's the thing. I need to find a pair that will multiply together to give me 4, but they have to add up to negative 5. So what are the numbers that will multiply together to give me 4? Well, for one thing, I can think of 2 and 2, and then I've got 4 and 1. All right, but also negative 4 and negative 1. All right, if I do negative 4 times negative 1, that's going to give me positive 4. But here's the thing. If I do negative 4 plus negative 1, I'm going to get negative 5. All right, so I know that this pair is going to be, the pair that I want to work with here. So I'm going to write my negative 4 here and my negative 1 here. All right, and this is more just to keep track of the negative 4 and the negative 1. But we're not done yet, all right? The answer is not C, x equals negative 4 and x equals negative 1, because we're not quite done yet. Now what I have to do is I have to take this negative 4, and I'm going to write x minus 4 equals 0. Now how do I solve this equation for x? Well, since it's x minus 4, I know that I have to do the opposite operation of subtraction, which is addition. And whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other. So I add 4 to both sides. The 4's are going to cancel out here, and this is going to, if I rewrite it, it's going to be x equals 4. So that's one of my solutions. All right, so I have x equals 4. Now I do the same thing. I come over here. Remember, I found that the pair that multiplied together to be 4, but added up to be negative 5, it was negative 4 and negative 1. Now I also have to consider this negative 1, so I'm going to write x minus 1, set this equal to 0, and I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Why am I adding 1 to both sides? Well, because I've got x minus 1. If I add 1, that's going to cancel out. Whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other. So I have to do 0 plus 1, which is simply 1. So I found that my two solutions are x equals 4 and x equals 1. All right, and I do have a whole video where I break down quadratic equations and I go over a ton of examples. So if you had trouble with this, that would be a good video to watch. What is the equation of a line passing through the points negative 6 and 10 and 2, negative 4? So let's have you pause the video, try to figure this out, and then when you're ready, we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so there are two different formulas that you have to use to get this question right. The first is our slope formula. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So that's our starting point for this equation of a line question. So when I look at my pairs here, I've got negative 6 and 10. The first number in any pair is an x-coordinate, and the second number in any pair is always called a y-coordinate. So I'm going to call this x1, and I'm going to call this y1. Now let me look at my second pair. I've got 2 and negative 4. So this 2, I'm going to call this x2 because the first number is always an x-coordinate. And this negative 4, I am going to call this y2. So now all I have to do is use formula number 1 here. Slope equals y2 minus y1. So what am I going to substitute into this formula for y2? Well, if I look at my label here, -4 is my y2. All right, so this -4 just goes into the equation in place of the y2. So now I have to do the minus y1. So I've got 10 right here as my y1. So I do -4 minus 10. All right, so now we go down to x2 minus x1. And my x2 is simply 2. And my x1 is -6. So since I'm doing minus -6, I can just make this plus 6. Now you're welcome to use your calculator if you'd like to. I am just going to kind of just do this free-handed. So I have -4 minus 10 is going to be -14. 2 plus 6 is 8. And if I simplify, what is 14 divided by 2? That is 7. What's 8 divided by 2? That is 4. So I've just found that my slope is -7 over 4. So now what I want to do is go up to my second equation, and I'm going to plug -7 over 4 into this equation for slope, and before you know it, we'll have the right answer. So here's how we use formula 2. So I have y minus y1. So for my y1, I just simply put in 10. And I have my slope as -7 over 4 times x minus x1, where my x1 is -6. So since it's minus -6, I can just make it plus 6. Okay. And so now we're going to take this -7 over 4 and we're going to distribute it. So I'm going to do -7 over 4 times x, and then -7 over 4 times 6. Okay. And when I rewrite, it's going to look like this. I've got y minus 10 equals -7 over 4x plus what? Plus, if I use my calculator, what is -7 over 4 times 6? Well, if I use my calculator, and this should be minus, it shouldn't be plus, right? It's -7 over 4. So the answer to that, -7 over 4 times 6 is going to be -10.5. Okay. So the last step here would be to take this y minus 10, and I want to add 10 to both sides of my equation. All right, so if I do that, if I do -10.5 plus 10, I'm going to be left with 0.5, which is equal to half. So the right answer is going to be D. All right, so after all of this, we get D as our correct answer here. And so this is kind of confusing, so let me show you the solution that I typed out here. I wrote the solution for you, so if you want to, you can pause the video, take all the time you need with this, and then when you're ready, we'll move ahead to the next question. Dylan's Tire Factory uses 17 pounds of rubber per tire they produce. Last week, they made 3,000 tires. How many pounds of rubber in total were required that week to make the tires? A, B, C, D, or E. So now would be a good time if you'd like to pause the video. Give this one a shot, and when you're ready, unpause the video, and we'll go over how to do it. And whether you get it right or wrong, I don't care. It's all about the knowledge right now. So give yourself a chance to try the question without the pressure of getting the answer right or wrong. Okay, so let's go over this. So you could kind of think through this question intuitively, but let me show you a way to do it here. So the way I would think about this question is we're told that we've got 3,000 tires, right? And they make 3,000 tires, and we know that the factory uses 17 pounds of rubber per tire they produce. So I can say here, well, we've got 17 pounds per tire. And so if I just simply throw this in my calculator and see what I get, if I do 3,000 times 17, I get 51,000 pounds, all right? And so I set this up here so that the units will cancel out and I'll be left with my answer in pounds. Now, you also might have just intuitively known to multiply 17 and 3,000, so if you did that, great job here. But if you had trouble with that, just keep this in mind here, how to cancel these units like this, and I'll put the solution on the screen that you can read if you'd like to. Then when you're ready, we'll keep rolling. So this video's champion shoutout goes to a test taker who just passed the GED recently after being out of school for almost 10 years. And the test taker wants everyone watching this to know that if you're thinking about getting their GED, I would say study hard and you can pass. If I can do it, you can do it, let's go. So congratulations, and hopefully this is inspiring to those watching. Answer without using a calculator. 0.04 times 0.002. Let's have you pause the video, try this out, and as always, don't worry whether or not you get it right. It's all about the knowledge. We're just going to go over how to do it either way. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to try this if you wanted to. So for a question like this, to do it without a calculator, the first thing I want you to do is just do 4 times 2 like you normally would. All right, 4 times 2 is just simply 8. So now what I want to do is I want to count up how many digits there are to the right of the decimal points. It sounds a lot more complicated than what you actually have to do. So let's look at 0.04. So here's my decimal point, and I have 2 numbers to the right of it. And now if I look over here, to the right of my decimal point, I've got 1, 2, 3. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. I've got 5 digits to the right of my decimal points. All right, so I know that my answer is going to have 5 digits in it. So I take my 8 here, and that's going to be 1 digit. Then I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and put my decimal point. All right, so the answer here is going to be E. Let me give you the solution up on the screen, and you can pause the video, take all the time you need to study that, and then when you're ready, we'll go on to the next question. What is the greatest common factor of 44, 52, and 96? So let's have you pause the video and try this out, and if you get stuck, absolutely no worries, we're just going to go over how to do it. Okay, so basically, for a question like this, a good thing to do is just list as many factors as you could think of, and a factor is just a number that you can take this original number and you can divide by it evenly. All right, so in other words, if I have 44 and I divide it by 2, I'm going to get 22. All right, I'm not going to get something weird like 22.2347. I'm just going to get 22. All right, a nice whole number here. All right, and so basically, for a question like this, it's just important to know your multiplication times tables, know your times tables, know your division tables, and just use your calculator to kind of guess and check as much as you need to. These questions are just kind of a pain, or they can be tedious, but all you want to do is just list the factors of 44, 52, and 96, or at least list as many as you can think of, and then just look for numbers that appear on each list. So for example, factors of 44, 52, and 96. We see 1, 2, and 4 appear on each list, and 4 is the greatest number out of all the numbers that appear on each list. In other words, out of all the common factors, 4 is the greatest common factor. All right, so A is the correct answer here. And if you want to, you can pause the video. Here's your written solution that I typed out for you right here. You can study this, and when you're ready, we'll move ahead. If the area of the triangle below is 80, what is the value of the height rounded to the nearest whole number? And I've given you the formula for the area of a triangle here. It's area of the triangle equals base times height divided by 2. Sometimes people write this as area equals half times base times height, however you want to think about it. This is a hard question, so don't feel bad if you get this one wrong. Just pause the video, try your best. It's all about the knowledge, like I've been saying throughout the video, and we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so for this question here, let me say right off the bat that this 18 is just kind of extra information that that's really just kind of here to trip you up, for lack of a better way to put it. It's just kind of here as extra information that you really don't need. So if you tried to do something with the 18 here, you probably will end up getting the wrong answer, and that's totally cool because we're just practicing right now, all right? So I don't care if you get it right or wrong, all right? But the way you'd want to approach a question like this is to first understand that the area of the triangle is 80. And the area of the triangle is equal to base times height divided by 2. Now, our height is this side of the triangle, and our base is this side. And what makes this question work is that they're both the same value. All right, that's what these red lines here indicate. All right, that indicates that both sides are the same exact value. Both sides are of length x. So for base times height, It's really x times x divided by 2. All right, and so what is x times x? Well, x times x, I can more simply just call that x squared. Now, if I want to get the x by itself, what I need to do is deal with this 2 here. So if I have x squared divided by 2, if I multiply by 2, it's going to cancel these out. It's going to leave me with x squared, but not so fast because you also have to multiply by 2 on this side, because whatever you do to one side, you also have to do it to the other. All right, so 160 equals x squared. And now what I do at this step right here to get the x by itself, what I have to do is I have to take the square root of both sides here. Now, a lot of people, when they see something like this, 160 equals x squared, they try to square both sides, and that's a really, really, really common mistake. So don't feel bad if you were thinking to do that, but really what you have to do is take the square root of both sides, all right? So this is where you're going to want to use a calculator. I mean, I had to use, I Googled the square root of 160 to get the numerical value, but it's something like this, 12.6 and then a bunch of other numbers, something like that. 12.6 is going to equal x. And the question's asking me to round to the nearest whole number, so this would round up to 13, so B is the right answer. This question is really hard. Actually, this is kind of pushing the difficulty of what you could expect on your test. This might be a little bit harder. I would say this is probably harder than what you'll get on your test. So if you, although you might, this is fair game, but I'd say this would be one of the harder questions on your test for sure. So let me show you, here's the written solution of this. Take your time with this. Don't feel bad if you got this wrong. This is hard, and then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, 78 says 4 over 6 divided by 7 over 9 equals what? Is it A, 6 over 11, B, 2 over 3, C, 6 over 9, or I'm sorry, C, 6 over 7, or D, 9 over 14? Let's have you pause the video, try this out. This would be a really good one to try without a calculator if you'd like to, and then when you're ready, we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so basically the first thing that I see here that I want to do is I can simplify this fraction since we've got two even numbers. So what is, if I divide both by 2, I can rewrite that as 2 over 3. The 4 over 6 is going to become 2 over 3, so that's going to help us out quite a bit. All right, and now what I want to do is if I have to divide fractions and I don't have a calculator, what I want to do is I want to take this 7 over 9 and I'm going to flip it upside down and make it 9 over 7. And now I'm simply going to multiply. So 2 times 9 gives me 18, and 3 times 7 gives me 21. And now, hopefully what you see is that both 18 and 21 are divisible by 3. So if I do 18 and I divide that by 3, I get 6, and 21 divided by 3 gives me 7. So C is the correct answer here, and I'll put the written solution up on the screen for you to take your time and pause the video and study if you want to, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Which of the following answer choices is the largest fraction? Is it A, 3 over 10, B, 14 over 27, C, 9 over 20, D, 17 over 36, or E, 5 over 14. Let's have you pause the video, try to figure this out. Calculators are fair game if you want to use them, and then we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so there's a couple ways to approach this question. One way would be to just use your calculator and turn all of these into decimals and then kind of pick whichever decimal is the biggest number, which is a valid way to do this. Another way to do it would just be to kind of look at these, and there's really a trick we can apply to this question here. If you see A is 3 over 10, so 3 over 10 is less than half, right? Because if you do 3 times 2, that gives you 6, which is less than 10. So this is going to be less than half, all right? Now 14 over 27, if we do 14 times 2, 14 times 2 is going to give us 28, which is bigger than 27. So this is equal to something that's greater than half. All right, 9 over 20 is less than half, so I can cross that out. 17 over 36 is less than half. And 5 over 14 is also going to be a fraction that's less than half. So just by going down through all these and looking at the fact that 14 over 27, we don't know exactly what number it is without using a calculator, but we realize that it's going to be some number that's greater than half, while the others are going to be less than half. All right, that could be a quick way to find B as the answer. All right, but if you had trouble understanding how I just did that, then I would just stick to your calculator, plug the numbers in, look at the decimals, and that might work better depending on your preference. So here's the written solution up on the screen.